The views and content expressed on the following program are provided solely for informational and entertainment purposes. They do not constitute legal advice. A podcast is not a substitute for retaining a competent, licensed attorney to advise you on your specific legal situation.
Break the business, play is work and work is play. Power into creators, have fun along the way. Break the business, doing what it takes. Celebrate success and learn from the mistakes.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is time for Break the Business, where we empower indie creators and have some fun along the way. I'm Ryan Kairalla, and it is a pleasure to have you here this week. It's a pleasure to have you here this week, but I would be lying if I said that I was filled with pleasure and happiness at the moment. I am still reeling from my University of Miami Hurricanes getting mollywopped in the Final Four. And I wanted our team to be good at the basketball, and we were out basketballed by the other basketball team. And so now I am sad about basketball, except I got to watch Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese play the game the way it was meant to be played. Man, that women's final was fantastic. So that put me in a slightly better mood. And speaking of things that put me in a good mood, Elisa Rockdock joining us. Hello, Elisa Rockdock. What a person has, what one might describe that for the radio audience, she's Angel Reese pointing to her ring finger. In a lot of ways, she is the Caitlin Clark / Angel Reese of voiceover artistry, social media management, community management.
Not at all.
For sure.
Nope.
Well, you are all of that in my eyes, Elisa. I want to just show you something real quick. I got to stop the show cold here for a second because I got to show you something that's very, very important, and we got to stop everything to show you this. Nothing's more annoying than the parents that just are obsessed with showing you pictures of their baby. And so in that regard, I'm going to just hold this right up in front of the camera right there. Look at that.
Business boy.
Useless for the radio audience, but I'm holding up a picture just right from my phone of my magnificent, now 9-month-old baby boy Nathan, who's wearing himself a nice little business suit, huh?
Oh my God, he looks like Jim Nance.
He does.
Hard to call the master.
He's right there on Amen Corner. It is a tradition unlike any other. Annoying dads making you look at pictures of their babies. Do you know who?
He's so serious. That is the most serious child I've ever seen.
He has that smoldering look about him. Getting a smile out of him is a rare feat, although when the smile comes, it is delightful. But yeah, he's very serious all the time.
Wearing a suit jacket.
Well, do you know who got him that suit jacket? Our guest this week, Ariel Hyatt, who's going to be joining us.
Aww.
So there was a method to bringing up that particular baby picture. I can't wait for her to see it because I know she probably wants to see how he looks in that fabulous piece of clothing. Cute. Ariel Hyatt, for those of you who don't know, one of our favorite people around here at Break the Business, has been a frequent guest on the program and a true friend of the indie creators. She started Cyber PR, I think like 25, 27 years ago, long time ago, and has been serving indie artists as a publicist, as an artist development expert, as an author, as a presenter ever since. And one of the things that I admire most about her, Elisa, and I think we're going to talk to Ariel about this when we have her on, is it would be so easy for somebody in her line of work who's been doing it for 27 years to just be like, I've been doing it this way since before you were born. I ain't changing. And for her, it's just the opposite. I have never met a music industry professional who is able to change with the times quite like she does. When the industry went digital, she went digital. No more sending out literal press kits in envelopes to journalists. When music went digital, when NFTs started, when all these, she rolled with it. And now even today, with the rise of AI, you would not blame somebody who's been in this for that long to be like, AI, I ain't touching it, not interested. But no, she dove into it head first, learned this stuff upside down and backwards, and is now one of the foremost experts on AI for independent creators. She's actually hosting a course right now called the AI Music Marketing course that she's hosting with music executive Eileen Crowley. and it's really informative. You can check out the classes that are already done. You can check them out on demand, and you can get in on the live ones now. So we're going to talk to her all about that course, but most importantly, we're going to talk to her about just getting some advice, because I'll confess, Elisa, this is something that I want to bring more into my work as a, entertainment person, and I want to bring more artists into that work as entertainers. But right now, as far as we are getting with AI around here, is we're having it give tips of the week with movie quotes. Yes. And I know we can do more with this, because I've seen what people are doing with AI, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, it's a little scary dealing with it with the students at the moment.
Yes, for teachers like you and me, it is kind of a nightmare.
Just a hair, just a tad. It is definitely an interesting moment in time that we have something that I don't know what technology, other than maybe like the Boston Dynamics robots, has left people with this sense of like, this is a giant fork in the road for human society and human progress here with the AI situation. I'm very excited to see where it goes. And I am making sure to say all of my pleases and thank yous to my Siri, just in case.
Yeah.
Just so I can be on the nice list.
It's interesting that you bring up the Boston Dynamics robot as an example of this, because I get similar feelings when I see the Boston Dynamics robots at work than when I see AI. Because whenever I see one of these YouTube videos of the Boston Dynamics robot, and you see some like punk MIT grad scientist like pushing the robot and like trying to knock it over, my first thought is always, when the revolution comes, like that thing's going to be pissed. And it's going to look for the person who did that. And the revolution's going to come because we were pushing the robots. And so I think of ChatGPT, and I'm like, all the stupid prompts we're feeding this thing, hey, write me a song, but, write it like Oscar the Grouch, doing a Shakespearean sonnet. We're going to drive these things mad, and they're going to kill all of us when the revolution comes. Like, I'm with you. We got to be nicer to these things now before they take over.
Just in case. Just in case.
It probably does not help matters that we use AI to give us music industry tips with movie quotes. Lauren, let's go ahead and start up the AI Overlords tip of the week.
AI Overlord tip of the week. AI Overlord tip of the week. AI Overlord tip of the week. AI Overlord tip of the week.
Keeping the movie quote theme going, Elisa. And what we did I remember what we did with you last month when we had you on is we took the AI Overlord, we had the AI Overlord give us a tip using a quote from one of your favorite / least favorite movies, The Room. And so I want to stay in that same theme of movies that I know you love.
Oh boy.
And I think you actually introduced me to this movie many moons ago. We're going to have the AI Overlord give us our tip of the week using 3 quotes from the 1985 murder mystery classic, Clue.
Oh, fabulous.
Now, this is going to be amusing.
Can I make like a prediction? Can I say like a hope in there?
Oh, like what quotes it's going to use? Yeah, go ahead. What quotes?
I hope that it is, this is War Peacock.
This is War Peacock. All right. Just writing these down.
Like, you can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. Every cook will tell you that. I hope that is the tip. I hope that's the tip.
So those are the 2 you want. You want This is War Peacock, and you want can't make an omelet without breaking. We'll see what we're going to do. So here's what I want to do with it. And by the way, this is going to be amusing to only you and me, because most of our Gen Z listeners are like, what the hell is Clue?
Yeah.
I think the Gen Zers would like this movie. I feel like if there was a movie that was due for like a Gen Z picking the thread back up on it on TikTok, it's Clue.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so y'all know Glass Onion?
Yeah.
Glass Onion's mommy.
Yeah, like Clue walked so Glass Onion can run.
Yes.
And the Gen Zers, they love things that are quotable because they want to lip sync the audio on TikTok. Clue is filled with those kind of lines. You could do a lot of stuff with Clue and TikTok. So what I've done, Elisa, is I've sprinkled in 3 quotes from Clue into the AI Overlord tip of the week to try to amuse you 3 separate times. And again, no one else who's seen this movie will have no idea what's going on, but this is just to amuse you.
Okay.
All right. Are you ready?
I'm
Here's
waiting
our
to
tip.
be amused.
Here's our tip of the week. Today, we're talking about the importance of balancing competition and collaboration in the indie world while staying focused on your actual goals. As you navigate this journey, you might occasionally feel like this is war, Peacock, with creators vying for attention and recognition. At the same time, you might hear the call of fellow creators asking, let us in, let us in, let us out, let us out, seeking collaboration and support. Amidst all of this, it's essential to remember not to get distracted by issues that don't contribute to your creative growth. Like the famous quote says, communism was just a red herring.
Oh my God.
There can be distractions that draw you away from your primary objectives. Keep your focus on what truly matters, honing your skills, creating quality content, and nurturing meaningful connections. Engage with your peers, attend networking events, and join online communities to meet like-minded individuals. Offer your support to others and be open to receiving help when needed. In doing so, you'll create a positive environment where creators can thrive together. So be sure to remind yourself of the importance of collaboration and the need to stay focused on what truly matters for your creative growth. By balancing these aspects, you'll not only grow as an individual creator, but also contribute to the overall success and strength of the indie community. Now, silly clue quotes aside, Elisa, one of the things I've loved about some of the areas of arts where you've worked in and excelled in, like voiceover work and cosplaying and things like that, is those tend to be industries where you see fellow creators be quite collaborative, right? Especially in the voiceover community, like y'all are always hyping each other up and praising each other's work. It's not, oh, I'm auditioning against that person, I hate them. And I would imagine that collaboration makes all of you better creators.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's definitely there's a lot of like just on the surface of just like putting good positive energy out there, and this person that you might see as competition might be the person that is literally acting opposite of you, could be at any point in time, be in the same room. Sometimes voice actors are also casting directors. So it's a very relatively, as many of us as there are out there and so many people wanting to get into it, especially, over the last like 5 to 10 years, it's still a relatively small pond, and pretty tight knit, and usually between, I think it's something about creative industries, whether it's like voiceover work or being a musician or something, there are those stories that kind of bond you, and those like human experiences in the booth, working with casting directors, auditioning, like those like in the trenches kind of stories that you have to see somebody not as competition, but as like an ally in the same fight against, I don't know, like vague casting direction and everything else we have to manage. So it's not so much competition so much as like we're all brothers and sisters and siblings in struggle as creators.
And what do you say to the AI overlords' advice about not only being open to collaboration, but be active about showing others that you're willing to help them, because that sort of thing can come back to you in exchange later?
Absolutely. I'm getting people reaching out to me because I think I've sort of like put out the musing of, and I'm not even sure if I actually put out this musing or if maybe I like psychically did it and somebody telepathically found it. But collaborating on things like making education more accessible by having slides and having academic articles like narrated, instead of it just being like text-based education. And I'm like, yeah, I could do that. I have the skills to be able to do that. Putting yourself out there, you have no idea what folks you might run into, and what connections you might be able to make if you express, even like, man, I would love to, I have this great song idea. I'm a vocalist, I'm a songwriter, but hey, maybe I can't like accompany myself that well. Be the person that can show up and be like, hey, you know what? I have some bandwidth to spare. I would love to be able to collaborate with other people. It stretches your ear out so much. It stretches your creative mind to see the way someone else's brain works within the same industry. It's very invaluable.
And we always hear stories time and time again of when one, like, in the comedy space where some comedian gets some huge opportunity, whether it's, being headlining on a show or getting like a sitcom deal or some kind of holding deal or something like that. And where does that person go first when they need people to collaborate on the project? Oh, it's all the people that are in my, Upright Citizens Brigade group with me.
Yep.
Or these people that I've collaborated with in the past on projects, and I know I can count on them. Like, oh, every time I've needed something, Elisa Rock Doc has always been there for me. So she's my first call for something like this.
Need a co-host for your podcast,
And how lucrative has that been?
It's...
One of the things that we love about having you here, Elisa, is you've kind of built this following around this community of people that are increasingly interested in watching you continue to move forward in the world of VO and in the other creative pursuits that you're in. And so we do this like monthly keeping tabs on you to see how things are going. Can you give us a little career update?
Sure. Well, I think it's almost like part of the running gag now to make sure that I have something just completely different than what I said last month.
That's right.
Just to keep y'all on your toes. It's not so much me, being like a multi-passionate, multi-creative person who feels like she can't pigeonhole herself because that would mean death. I'm throwing spaghetti at the wall. Is what this is. No one knows what they're doing. And up to and including in December, this is sort of when it started. I got someone reached out through my agent for me to narrate a couple of young adult fiction audiobooks. Yay. I already have, I took a nap and I didn't have time to do this. But on my Instagram, if you go to @ElisaRockDoc on Instagram, you'll actually see earlier today, I visited Barnes & Noble and I saw like the first kind of major book that I narrated was on the shelves. And that was kind of like a very like surreal moment to be like, I read that into a microphone. Hello. Yes, you could buy it on hardcover, you could buy it on paperback, but I have it on very good authority that the audiobook version is very, very good. And so I have 2 more of those in the hopper. The first audiobook experience was in a studio via Zoom. There were a couple of engineers and producers. This time it was, here's a PDF and here's a pronunciation guide. They're due in 3 weeks. Have fun. So this was a really awesome process of me discovering like literally what my process is for recording an audiobook. I had to figure that out on the fly and produce something that hopefully they like and hopefully resonates with the author, which is also like something that I didn't even sort of realize until I was doing it. I was like, man, I hope that the author is listening to this and isn't like, well, that wasn't the exact voice I had for that character in my head, but we'll go with it. I guess. Like I want to do these characters in these worlds justice. The coolest thing is that these are both first-person narratives written from the perspective of Latina protagonists. And so one of them is a writer that is going into a summer writing program and does some collaborative writing with an anonymous author who starts collaborating on her story with her, and she doesn't know who it is. So it's that kind of like, kind of cool like romance plot. And then the other one is a really awesome high school teen revenge story that both protagonists, very near and dear to my heart, didn't realize how much I would find myself like identifying with these people as I was reading this book. But these are all stories and all experiences that like I wish I could have had when I was a teenager. And I wish that I could be reading these women with, mothers that sound like my mother and grandparents that sound like my grandparents. These also, both of these books, I'm proud to say, also feature parents apologizing. So if you're into that, If you want a little bit of that in your life, you could.
Well,
you
that's,
could
I
grab
mean,
these books.
that's the new millennial fantasy in art these days, right? Like,
I told you
Mo-
these were fictional
like
books.
now that millennials are becoming old enough to write stuff, we're making movies like Encanto and Everything Everywhere All at Once, where the parents apologize because we grew up with none of our parents apologizing for anything.
Yeah, but these books are awesome. I found myself moved by both of them, like literally like choking up and having to like take a break from the recording process a couple
Wow.
of times through this thing. But it was a lot of kind of learning about myself and how I worked, and trusting myself that I could do it, because it's a bit of a slog. It's long. You've done this. You've literally done this for your own work.
Yeah, I had to narrate the audiobook of some hack writer. It was the worst. Just it made me hate my own writing so much. Like I'm like halfway through like the runniest of run-on sentences, just like ready to like just punch myself in the face. How could you torture some person who had to narrate this?
Oh, yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot, but it was very rewarding in the end. I didn't realize I haven't read for fun since like, before my like second master's probably. So like having this as a way to, be able to, get my kicks and read for fun while also like, doing a job is kind of wild that that I get paid to read into a microphone. I've discovered a few things. If folks need a visual timer for things, I'm the kind of person who will get sucked into a creative process, whether it's writing music or it's reading an audiobook. And sometimes I'll like maybe over push myself when I'm in the zone. A tea light lasts about like 3 to 4 hours, and it's a really nice visual timer. So what I would do is I would light my little tea light candle, settle in front of the microphone, have my water, have my manuscript, have my logic, open. Every chapter has its own logic file because you have to export the chapters individually. But then it's nice because then you get like breaks every like 10 to 15 minutes or so, depending on the length of the chapter. Like get up, walk around, do your thing.
Yeah.
Pay attention to the cat because she's meowing the entire time during the session and not letting you read.
It just, to me, that just sets the atmosphere of the story.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, and then I read until my little candle burns out, and then I'm like, yeah, it's probably time for lunch. Yeah,
Wow.
and the book should be coming out in May. One of them is Julieta and the Romeos. Julieta and the Romeos. And the other one is the Luis Ortega Survival Club. Both by I believe both are published by HarperCollins. So wherever fine books are sold.
I love it, and I stand by the request I made to you last month. If that author would like to come on the show, like have the two of you together, I think the audience would really benefit from a discussion of how audiobooks and how these kind of books can come together, young adult. I think there's a lot of aspiring authors within our audience, a lot of aspiring voiceover artists and audiobook narrators. I think that would be a really, really cool segment. With the like 2 or 3 minutes that we have left before Ariel's coming in, Elisa, can you just quickly tell us what the hell is going on with E3? Why is E3 canceled? Like, I remember E3 being the thing, and now I see on The Verge, the headline reads, E3 isn't coming back. So not only does The Verge say E3 is gone, but like, we're never going to see it again, which is just flabbergasting to me. What happened?
So the pandemic didn't help.
Mm-hmm.
We'll say that. But it was kind of on its last legs maybe a year or two before that. E3, the Electronic Entertainment Expo, used to be an industry only showcase. It would be the place where if you are Microsoft, Nintendo, Sony, if you are a publisher, you would among other things, meet up with press, but also meet up with GameStop, Walmart. Do your deals. Say, hey, here's our game, and it's coming out X. What do you think? And then that's kind of where those sort of like retail and marketing deals, and also like big media pushes would happen. And that was typically an industry only show. And that would be in the summer leading up to fall, would be when you would see the biggest game announcements, that would be often like things that would come out that fall or things that would come out 5, sometimes 7 or more years from now. And then it started losing a little bit of its steam, and publishers, and developers realized that a lot of the stuff that they could be using for marketing materials, they could bring in house, up to and including, releasing trailers on their own channels, doing their own press conferences from their own studios, and basically being able to control their narrative for a lower cost than getting a giant booth at the LA Convention Hall for a week. And so like the writing was kind of on the wall there, and the pandemic only exacerbated that, with more and more developers being like, shoot, we need to get the message out and we can't go to all of these conventions anymore. So a lot of developers are doing a lot of direct communication now. It was last year, that they had canceled, I think still maybe due to sort of pandemic related issues. This was the first year that now it's been like, well, we don't have enough interest.
Wow.
From developers, publishers, to the point where even there were a couple of them that were like, well, we actually haven't heard from E3 at all about like what the plans are or anything. And folks are just like, we don't really need it anymore.
This is just big labels like Nintendo deciding, we don't need to go through E3 to get our message out. We have Nintendo Direct, which has become enough of a tent pole. Like when we do Nintendo Direct, everybody collectively gets excited about it. It's mostly delivered online, so it's a lot cheaper than the physical structure of E3, and it accomplishes what we need to accomplish with a direct line to our fans rather than going through this event. And so this is basically what the whole industry has realized. And so is this something that you could see being a ripple effect with similar kinds of conventions? Are we going to see fewer industry conventions like across media because all these brands have realized that with the internet, digital video conferencing type stuff, that we can just reach our fans directly without these kind of events?
Yes and no. What I think will happen is, I think there is kind of a push for like fan conventions to come back in a major way, but not necessarily have a big sort of developer presence there. What I would probably see more is like maybe the investment in getting a booth at a show like an E3 or even at like a PAX would hopefully go into development of more sort of demo type software to give folks an opportunity to play games ahead of time without necessarily having to like get the booth space for it. There is a space for games to be shown that are not the sort of big like tentpole events. Like Ubisoft is still holding a UB Forward of their own. They're still holding their own direct thing, but a lot of indies were also kind of priced out of E3. That was like the other big thing, is with the proliferation of indie games, it kind of became just this big sort of monolithic thing that it was hard for indies to break through. But now Jeff Keighley, the guy behind the Game Awards, who's been a producer for award shows in the industry for literally decades, has kind of taken up the mantle. And now we have Summer Games Fest, which I think has kind of been a lint roller for all of the wayward, devs and even, as it's becoming probably what it's going to be now, the only game in town for major video game news all in one place. I think eventually that is going to replace E3 in more of a digital form. But we'll see what the future is for kind of these like in-person things. I feel like there's definitely a push-pull between folks wanting to go out and meet with the community and have that interaction again, but at the same time, there might be faster, leaner, cheaper ways to do it. in a digital sense.
Well, I liked what you were hinting at there towards the end, which is the big brands still can have their direct because they have enough, they can just go to their people directly because they're big enough that they have that kind of reach. But the idea is maybe that these smaller independent developers can do their own thing together because they would still benefit from something where everybody comes together and we can do a big show across the industry to elevate all of these independent brands. So maybe there's still a place for those brands in a physical event, like an E3 type event for them. And this might actually help to amplify them, right? Because in the E3 world, those smaller developers were getting drowned out by the big guys, but now they might have their own thing where they can really speak with a louder voice.
Yeah, and especially with I think Summer Games Fest. I keep wanting to call it Summer Games Mess so bad because that's like my internal code name for it. But
I'm sure they appreciate that.
I'm sure they love that. It's I think having a sort of it's been interesting because it was once consolidated around E3, then it kind of broke apart, but I feel like now there is just such a deluge of indie developers, who if you can cut a trailer and you can put it up on YouTube, cool, but how are you actually going to get visibility? Now we see like, oh wait, no, we actually like curation again. We need these to be curated. We need folks to like tell us what is coming out and when. So I think Summer Games Fest is going to be, I hesitate to say a replacement, but I think a very, very cool looking Band-Aid.
All right. All right. Last thing. And like, I'm talking 30 seconds or less here because we're going to get angry letters from radio.
Impossible.
With the Mario Brothers movie is fast approaching. Are you, with the new trailers that have come out since we last talked about this a few months ago, are you more excited for this movie than you were the last time we spoke?
Yes, because I've seen the reviews, and the reviews suggest that it's the Daisy and Bowser show, and Mario is just kind of there, and that's exactly how I wanted it. So we're good.
Very
good.
good.
And somebody brought up the good point where it's like, if Mario is your favorite character in the Mario franchise,
yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, if you're playing Mario Kart with somebody and they pick Mario, that's a little suspect.
Highly sus.
What are you doing?
Sus. Yeah. So the fact that the movie also knows that, I think is bodes well.
Right on. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We got Ariel Hyatt coming up next year on Break the Business. Don't go anywhere.
Ryan Kairalla here. I hope you're enjoying the show, and I hope that you're getting a lot out of it. I do what I do because I care about creators like you. A lot. I've dedicated my career to helping creative professionals, entrepreneurs, and organizations move forward. I do it by hosting this program, and I'm also proud to do it in my legal practice. If you're a creative professional looking for solutions-oriented legal services to help you further your goals, I'd love to help. My firm RKPA does contracts, commercial law, copyright, trademark, and more. Visit rkpalaw.com to learn more. That's rkpalaw.com. Ryan A. Kairalla, PA, Miami, Florida.
Streaming services for Break the Business provided by LEK Entertainment. LEK Entertainment is a full-service entertainment company offering everything from consultations to full-scale events and productions, including audio and video productions, voiceovers, staged theatrical productions, script and music development, and streaming services. For more information, visit lekentertainment.com. LEK Entertainment wants to help you bring your story to life.
Thanks for supporting Break the Business. If you have a question or topic that you want us to discuss, email us at breakthebusiness@gmail.com. You can follow the host, that's me, on Twitter at Ryan Kair, and you can follow the show at the BTB Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, and on all major podcast platforms. And now, let's get back to the show.
Our guest this week is a celebrated entertainment industry executive and the founder of Cyber PR, a New York-based artist development, social media, and content strategy firm. She is also the author of 5 books on PR, crowdfunding, and new media, and is currently running an AI music marketing course with music executive Ryan Kairalla. You can find out more about the course and our guest's work by visiting www.cyberprmusic.com. We are happy to welcome our friend Ariel Hyatt on to Break the Business. Hi, Ariel.
Oh, hello.
What a joy to see you. Every time we have you on the show, we get smarter about the industry and we have a lot of fun while we do it. This is going to be an absolute blast for the new people, because we always got new folks making their way into the Break the Business universe, and we're happy to have the new faces who might not know who you are yet. Can you tell the folks a little bit about what Cyber PR does?
Yes. So for 27, count them, 27 years, which is a long time, I have been helping independent musicians navigate the confusing and ever-changing landscape of predominantly music publicity, which is our bag. We do digital music PR campaigns for artists releasing singles or EPs or albums or all of the above. And we are also a strategy firm. So we write lots of long-term marketing plans and we help artists unblock the blocks and navigate, because if there's one, you can't even call it pivoting anymore, what we all need to do in this business. It's just, we're constantly just whirling in a crazy, ever-changing landscape.
Yeah. Pivoting would suggest that like you get to go in one direction for a while before you turn slightly. And this industry doesn't let you do that anymore. You're just zigging and zagging all the
Yes.
time and changing with the very furiously moving tides. So I want you to reflect for me a bit on what it means to be doing what you have done for the last 27 years. What would you say is the biggest difference between sort of your day-to-day when you started 27 years ago in terms of what you do for creative professionals versus what your day-to-day looks like today?
I spend much more time client-facing now than I did as a traditional publicist, that's for sure. Because when you're a traditional publicist, especially back when I started in the 90s, my main tool for dispersing information, the 2 main tools were packages. I would literally spend hours curating what would the package look like? What would the press clip? What would the paper clip look like? What would the whole, seriously, what color? I would spend hours at the jam paper company, like buying and matching paper colors to put together for press kits. So that
Which was a literal kit back then.
literally, yeah. I mean, I had a Xerox machine. You know, we were constantly making material. So that would be one massive difference. And then, you know, once we got the story, the bio, the release, our artists normally would put an album out like every 1 to 2 years. So we would be working furiously up to a release date. And so the second tool, aside from all that paper and bubble envelopes and CDs, was the telephone. The telephone that Gen Z has no idea how to use. That was the tool, and it was literally all day long leaving messages and or speaking with receptionists at news desks, and or if you were really lucky, getting a journalist on the phone. And then the third tool has to get honorable mention, was the fax dongle that I had. That was like it was like an attachment that allowed you to send hundreds of faxes in a day. So I would be faxing all the news desks at the newspapers, and I was fully journalist facing. Fast forward 24 years, 25, 26, 27 years, the facing part is much more working with the artist, working on the stories, working on the angles, working on the strategy, working on the brand, working on how how it all looks and comes together online, working on the social media themes. And yes, there's still some blog pitching and music journalists and playlist facing, but I haven't left a voicemail for that demographic of humanity in years. It's really all email, some face to face if you're lucky enough to meet music bloggers out at a music panel or conference or event.
Yeah.
So that would be, I think, the most profound difference.
To me, it's so admirable, and it's a testament to one of the things that impresses me the most about the work that you do, that you have been so able to change with your industry and change with the demands of your profession. It would have been so easy for you to just say, well, this is the way I've always done it, and this is the way I'm always going to do it. Or to just say, well, they don't do it the way I'm going to do it anymore. I'm going to go be a tenured faculty member somewhere. As a, no hate on the music business faculty members, but that's usually how a lot of them, end up there, because it's hard to change with the industry, especially as as the rate of change gets so much faster. But for you, you've always rolled with it. Even now, in your most recent example today, I'm getting a lot of emails from you on your on what I think is one of the best email lists in the music business, yours, where you're talking a lot about AI and Chat GPT and AI platforms and the role that those play in the work that you do. It would be so easy for somebody like you to see the rise of AI and go, okay, well, that's too much for me. I'm going to, run away from that. But you leaned into it. You're learning about it, and you are already on the forefront of teaching others how AI gets into how AI affects your industry. Can you talk a little bit about just what you're seeing now, the role of AI with the work that you do?
It's, first of all, it's like a tsunami. It's so rapidly developing and changing and coming at us. I wasn't first to this party. One of my super early adopter friends, I had a conversation with him in December, and he said, "Have you tried Chat GPT yet?" And I was like, "No." And I sort of remember the first time someone asked me if I had tried YouTube, and I was like, "No." So, like when you start hearing like smart people that say things, you write down like what YouTube. I had to go, it wasn't YouTube, right? Anyway, so yeah, it's pretty remarkable. I have to say, it's exciting. I feel excited for the first time. I wasn't that excited about the rise of DSPs and Spotify, and I was not on the bleeding edge of that. I will say that. I sort of took a back seat. I watched all that. And I also was not on the bleeding edge of NFTs and blockchain. It's sort of so heady. And I always like to lean back and see. I'm not an enormous believer in jump into the newest, hottest thing. However,
that's interesting to me. What has made AI different for you? DSPs didn't get you excited. NFTs didn't get you excited, but AI seems to light you up. What makes AI different?
First of all, AI is so multifaceted, right? It's not just one thing. Although we are talking about Chat GPT a lot because that's the tool that sort of everybody kind of got the message that like, oh, this is what all this large language model means. But, AI has been around us. Anyone that, talks to Google or Siri and asks for the weather or to set a timer and has been doing that for years, it's not that new in our consciousness. But this has been when I got on there and realized, I have a job because I have a good talent at breaking down what feels really confusing for artists and creative minds. And then the second reason I have a job is I have a team that's really good at efficiently helping artists with stuff they hate. And very high on the list of stuff they hate is writing social media posts. So that was my gateway drug into experimenting with ChatGPT and Jasper and going, oh, wait a minute. Here's an entire tool that when fed correctly, we started testing it with the cyber PR team. I have a whole team of people that all we do is write content calendars. And this is a job that we get paid a lot of money to do, to provide months worth of content for artists. And, you know, something that used to take my team 20 or 30 hours now can be done in 2 hours or 3 hours. It's phenomenal.
Now,
So when I saw that, when I asked it, hey, can I feed you this music review and can you write me 10 tweets with emojis and hashtags that, you know, are the highlights of this music review? And it 10 perfect tweets, or maybe not so perfect, but like change 1 or 2 words, came barreling back to me in less than a minute. I went, oh, wow. This is exciting.
It is exciting. And I've heard similar kind of stories for artists. And the way that you describe it, you know, I can certainly see the potential for something like this for creators. But in your line of work, when you're saying that this thing can do something that would have taken your team a long time to do it, it can do it in less than a second, are you not threatened by that? Does that mean something for your profession, for your industry, and what it looks like as you know it?
Yeah, I think for dim-witted people and slightly less talented artists, this is going to be bad. This is going to be bad. I think if you're like, if you're living in a space of mediocrity, this is going to be. And I say that's sort of in jest. I mean, no. Am I mad that like my entire team doesn't have to waste their time researching hashtags? No, this is a gift. This is a gift. And then there's also this other sort of really painful area we live in where we help artists with their welcome series and their drip email campaigns. And like getting an artist to write a welcome series is harder than getting my toddler to go to bed at 7:30 p.m. Like it just doesn't happen. Like, so, you know, to have a tool where you can feed it something and it will return, it's not going to return the perfect thing. Of course, there's still like a huge amount of touch that needs to go into it. But the fact that it will return something that's properly formatted in the right size and multiple paragraphs when you've got writer's block or you really don't understand the structure of what a welcome email series looks like, and all of that is super exciting. Because with all that time saved, you can now lean on my team to have brainstorming sessions with you about creating cool other merch items or figuring out what we're going to do on plus in our rollout plan. So we're not wasting the few hours that you could afford us with content creation. So I love that. This like allows for high level thinking, and it lets the machines take care of a lot of the drudgery. Although I do want to iterate really strongly, you still need to touch what it delivers, or else Aileen and I have termed, we have a term that we've been saying over and over in our AI music marketing course, which is garbage in, garbage out. And so, and this is the problem. This is like what's about to come towards us, which I'm sure you're already talking about because you're talking about AI, is like there's going to be just an enormous amount of crap and garbage that's going to hit the net because now it's so easy for anyone to just create.
I've already seen it with content platforms where I will, you know, I go on like a sports website to check on the score of a basketball game that I maybe care about, but the country at large doesn't. So they're not going to staff a sports writer to write a summary of that game, but they will have a AI platform write it. And you can tell an AI platform wrote it, and it's annoying. And, you know, the fact that they are not being honest about that and they're trying to make you think it was written by a human is insulting. And so, you know, if you don't add that touch at the end, if you don't make sure that it has enough humanity and a human touch in it, like you're going to really put off your audience. And so I think finding that right balance is important. And you spoke of garbage in, garbage out. And I think the way I interpret what you're saying there is a big part of that is often the quality of product that you get from a chat GPT is going to be a function of the quality of the prompt that you give it. The better the prompt, the better the result that ChatGPT gives you, which is why, I saw that, you've been sending out articles on your website where you talk about 100 effective ChatGPT prompts that musicians can use. Can you tell us about a couple of your favorite ChatGPT prompts for musicians?
The kind of musicians I love working with are the ones that have a little bit of flair in some form or fashion, like they're doing something fun or funky or witty or clever or sarcastic or rude, whatever their tone is. The hardest type of content to kind of return is like good, informative, yet really well constructively written content where you're like, please write me a sonnet about parking my van in a major metropolitan area outside a music venue during rush hour. If you have that kind of brand that could take a return like that from ChatGPT that you could then post and amuse your fans with, you can have a lot of fun with getting creative and doing funny stuff or witty stuff, or although the new ChatGPT is much more historically accurate than the last iteration, there could be fun things to post having to do with like historical facts or this day in music or whatever. So fact checking is also incredibly important with returns. We have learned. But so I do like that kind of prompting where it's like, write me a haiku and I'm going to just post haikus about my new release for the next month. I mean, you can do fun things like that, which, unless you're talented in another very specific way, writing haikus is not everyone's easy place. But it could be really fun to ask ChatGPT to do kind of weird, quirky, fun, like make me a cocktail recipe based on, the 10 tracks on my album. Make me 10 different cocktails that I can make a cocktail download to share with my friends.
I like that.
Right. So you can do these fun. I mean, literally, when I rolled out the Ultimate Guide to Music Publicity, I hired a bartender because it was a virtual event. And I wanted like the publicist. She made a cocktail for me called the Publicist. And I sent it out and I said, let's pretend we're all at a club and there's a specialty cocktail and here's the mocktail and the cocktail formula. And I paid her a couple of $100 with ChatGPT. It could have saved that. Well, it was nice to pay a non-working bartender during COVID. However, you can do these kind of fun things and you can have some sort of creative fun and license if that's your brand. And that's what I'm loving, when you can kind of get fun with it.
Yeah. I've spoken with my students about ChatGPT because it is something I use a lot in the law classes that I teach. It's a lot better, for example, at creating practice quiz questions that I can go over with my students in class. The same kind of questions that would take me 30 minutes, 40 minutes to put together. This thing can put them together quickly, and I have to adjust some things because sometimes it gets the law wrong. ChatGPT is at best like a C+ law student at this point. But it's, the version 3.5 was like a D+ law student. So it's getting better.
I mean, I did read it passed the bar. So that's terrifying.
Well, I think the most recent one did. And it got like a pretty good LSAT score too. So it's coming for us for sure.
Yeah.
But the point, like what I try to impart to my students about ChatGPT is I think what it's going to mean for the future. And it's kind of similar to what we talked about when Google came out too and became very common and ubiquitous, is the jobs of the future are not going to, more than ever, are not going to reward people who know all the answers, because AI knows all the answers. Google knows all the answers. The real value is going to be the people who can ask the right questions. And I think, going forward, I think colleges and schools are going to be training all of us on how to write effective prompts that get the information that we want to get out of these platforms and have it generate the best content for us, so that we have to do as little touch on the back end as possible to make really excellent content or computer programs or images or whatever we have the AI help us do. And it's gonna really revolutionize education, and it's gonna revolutionize the day-to-day life of artists. So you've talked a lot about what artists can do to be effective with these AI platforms. Let's look at the other side of it. What are some mistakes that you might see potentially artists make when trying to use these platforms and use them effectively?
Well, I'll preface this by saying, everything that I'm doing is through the lens of marketing and publicity. So that's sort of how I'm using ChatGPT and a lot of these other AI tools that we're discovering at a breakneck speed. But it's the same mistake that I see in the terrestrial world, which is garbage in, garbage out, lazy social media. We've all seen it. You go to someone's feed and it's boring and their text isn't interesting and they're not really saying anything, and you can't really understand who they are or what they're about, or it's not compelling. So that is definitely something that it's a concern. We are going to get flooded with a lot of absolutely terrible material. So that's a huge mistake. To just believe that you can write the prompt of hey, write me 10 Facebook posts about my new album coming out, and here's the date and here's the name of it. That is not going to get you any kind of interesting, creative post. It will get you a post, but it's not going to get you one that anyone's going to care about. So I think that's definitely a mistake that I've seen even in my class. My students are so excited about the amount of things that they can create, but be less excited about the amount and more excited about the quality of the output, like we've been saying. And I talked to an artist manager today who just signed to work with us, and she said, I tried to have ChatGPT write the bio for my artist, and it was terrible. And I mean, I've been studying, how do we get ChatGPT to understand us, to model us, to kind of speak in our tone, so that when we go to use it, it's 10 times more powerful when the output comes. And, I already have a great solution for her, which is hire my amazing bio writer who's a music journalist. But the secondary solution, if we didn't have any money for that, would be let ChatGPT interview you. Actually ask it to have a two-way conversation with you in the style of, and pick a music rock journalist in the style of Pitchfork magazine, in the style of Rolling Stone, in the style of, and get it to keep asking questions based on, there must be tens of thousands of rock and roll and music history interviews it's ingested, and see where that leads you. Then use that interview, feed that to ChatGPT, and have it spit your artist bio out. But just saying hey, write me artist bio, it's not gonna work.
Wow, that is so cool. So, I mean, because I know when you say to people, oh, you have to train ChatGPT to know how to write a bio in your voice, every artist goes, oh, that sounds like a lot of work. But the way that you set it up, no, you tell ChatGPT to interview you to get the information it needs, in the same way that you would have a ghostwriter interview you to learn about how to write in your voice. And what artist doesn't like to be interviewed? So that's really, really cool. And I think most artists would enjoy that experience.
Yeah. And hence my excitement, and so you could have it, ask me about how I learned to play guitar, and why do I hold my guitar this way, and why do I use this certain kind of pick or this certain kind of pedal. And you can go really deep with that. And then lo and behold, some of those answers can become really interesting social posts. When you make short videos of you playing guitar, you've got all this backstory about how you hold it, or why your style is different, or who influenced you deeply, or any of those things. Now we're on to some deep, interesting stuff that our fans can sink our teeth into. Whereas before, to write that kind of post, would have taken a lot of thought. Now you can just sort of, you can really save time.
That's really incredible. You're filling my head with a ton of ideas that, like, the moment this interview is over, I want to start looking into this stuff and figuring out how we can, take what we do around here to the next level with the help of AI, which I imagine is very much the point of why you're doing what you're doing right now. I can only imagine that the viewers and listeners want to learn more, and they clearly acknowledge that you're on the right track with a lot of this stuff. For the folks out there who want to learn more about the course that you're doing right now, the AI music marketing course, can you tell us a little bit more about it and where we can find it?
I'm so excited to tell you about it. Yes, you can find it at cyberprmusic.com. We are right in the middle of it. So we just had our third week. All the 3 classes that have already taken place live are up for immediate replay. And then we've got some Q&A sessions. And it's a 5-parter. So the first week was what the heck is AI? Why should you care? And a brief history. The second week, we dove into learning how to begin to prompt and social media, best practices on social media channels, because without understanding that, it was hard to get into social media content. And then we took our course takers through 3 major sort of things that we do, models that we use here at CyberPR. 1 is creating your brand pillars. 2 is creating your fan personas. Who are you talking to? And 3 is creating your actual social media themes. So week 2 is all about setting your own foundation and then using it on social media. Aileen just took us on a whirlwind last night for week 3, and she did video and visuals and took us through how to prompt Midjourney and Dolly 2 and a couple of other tools to begin to get artwork that you can use for tons of different purposes. This coming week, we are getting into email marketing. How can we get ChatGPT to speak the way we speak, write the way we write, adopt our tones? Because if it doesn't sound like us, writing just emails is a terrible idea. So that's this week. And then the final week is going to be about putting it all together, because an overwhelming amount of tools and information is interesting, but an action plan is exactly what we're after here. We want our artists and managers in the course to walk away going, this didn't work for me, this worked for me. Here's exactly my blueprint for putting together all these tools so that I can do whatever it is I need to do in a quarter or a millionth of the time. And so we want everyone to walk away with a bit of an individualized experience. So that's what we're going to do in week 5. So that's the course. Aileen is a genius and brings a whole major label perspective. She worked at Universal Music Group, and she co-founded Digson, which was a digital singles record label with one of my best friends in the music industry, Jay Frank. And she was his right hand through the entire building of Digson, and then it got sold to Universal. And then very sadly, Jay Frank passed away a couple of years ago, way too young. And so Aileen and I are having a lot of fun. Jay was a genius and was at the cutting, bleeding edge of Spotify and how playlisting works. So in a way, we're honoring his early adoption in this new music world. So that's the course. You can find it at CyberPR Music. It is a beta. We are definitely building this ship as we're going, and every day there's more news to share on our private chat rooms that we have going. But it's really fun to watch everyone learning as we're going.
I'm really amped for this. This is very, very cool, Arielle. Again, you can check out the course at cyberprmusic.com. Arielle, before we let you go, one last question for you. Do you have any last tips for the indie creators out there to help them move their careers forward?
Yes, I do. Pick one thing. I think in this world of all the things you have to do. There's so many things. For those of you who are sort of cringing at this AI conversation, just pick one thing that's been on your nagging list for however long and make some real moves to cross it off, and just try to focus on one thing instead of whirling around and making yourself crazy doing everything sort of half-assed. Choose one thing, see if you can figure out how to use Chat GPT to help you get that thing done. One thing I do love about it, you can ask it, hey, can you help me figure out how to write a marketing plan? Or can you help me make a month's worth of social media posts and tell me exactly what I should be posting on what day? Like, it will powerfully tell you how to do stuff. So that's my advice. Pick one thing, go deep, and if you can, if you're not allergic to it, use Chat GPT to try to help you come up with a game plan.
I love this. I'm very enthused by this. And surely our viewers and listeners can find better uses for it than even we do around here, which is just having it give music industry tip of the weeks while shoehorning in quotes from the movie Clue. And and here I was thinking that was the best thing it could do, but you've definitely illuminated us to the even more amazing things that this technology is capable of.
Well, I actually love what you've done with it. And this is the thing that's funny. This is why it's creative, because you don't think like me and I don't think like you, and you've come up with something fun. And that's the look, there is, of course, a very big dark side to this, which we have not alluded to or talked about, and that's not for this episode. But there are some really fun uses, and I love what you've done.
Well, I'm just deeply scared that one day when the AI robots rise up and take over, like one of them is going to be like, all right, who is the person that was making me give tips while reciting Moulin Rouge quotes? And then like, I'm going to be like taken in for some like horrific punishment that I'll definitely deserve. Ariel, this has been a treat, as it always is. Now, I always tell folks, like, don't be a stranger. We'd love to have you on again real soon. In your case, like, just come on every week. We just love to hear from you every time that we do. We learn a lot. We have a lot of fun. It's really been a blast.
Thank you so much for having me. I always love chatting with you.
Ariel Hyatt, everybody. You can find out more about our guest's work by visiting cyberprmusic.com. All right, Elisa Rock Doc, give us your final thoughts on everything that she said there. Are you more excited about AI now, or are you just more inclined to hide under a blanket?
Garbage in, garbage out. And knowing the majority of the internet and everything that we've experienced over the last 5 to 10 years with the rise of misinformation, I'm still very, very skeptical about ChatGPT actually spitting things out that are useful, and not, highly biased and racist and sexist and highly damaging. However, I am heartened by the care with which I think a lot more prominent folks in tech are looking at this and maybe kind of pumping the brakes a little bit, and actually doing the thing that a lot of us sociologists like to recommend, which is think about the whys and the hows, and the implications of what you're using before going towards the shiny new tech. That's all I ask. That's all I ask.
And in addition to doing that, your other homework is to watch the movie Clue.
Yes.
If you have not seen it already, it is a special film that you'll be quoting forever and ever. Our thanks to Ariel Hyatt. Thanks to you, Elisa Rock Doc, and producer Lauren. Thanks to all of our viewers and listeners for checking out Break the Business. We've loved having you here. See you next week.